Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eden Road podcast, where on tonight's show we're going to be reflecting on a massive 3 points away at Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday. Joining me for that task is Callum. Callum, all good, mate?
All good, buddy. All good.
Also, Craig is back after missing last week's Mark Flecken heroic. Some episode to miss, mate. He's got a few comments on the YouTube, but you're back now. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm just glad he didn't drop a stinker this weekend, so we've still got something about him to talk about.
Exactly that. Just before we get going, guys, remember to comment down below with your post-match thoughts. Share the podcast around with your mates because it helps us out massively in terms of word of mouth and the podcast growing. And also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Elam Road on Twitter and at Elam Road Pod on Instagram. Craig, do you know about Tweet of the Week? This is a new segment that we started. I don't know if you listened to the last podcast, but Tweet of the Week is a new segment. Have you heard about it? Did you listen to the last one?
Of course I am. Just because I'm not here doesn't mean I don't listen to you chaps.
Right.
Mike, it should be a Wolves fan, realistically. Some of the crap that they were coming out with last week.
So this is different because I normally look for the Brentford head loss when I'm scrolling through my timeline and bookmarking tweets that I can go through and kind of decipher which one I'm going to use. But this week I've gone for a Wolves fan, and I don't know if there's a wind up or not, because just that for people that listen on Spotify, you're going to hear the audio, but for people watching on YouTube, I'm just going to show it to you. I think you might know which video.
I know exactly the one it is.
It's just ball the game. The little fucking slap-headed, boulder-headed face, Elmerford face cunt. Up yours.
I think it's just the facial expressions.
So that tweet, Gary Pout, his handle makes me feel like it is a massive wind-up, but if it is true, fuck Brentford, fuck VAR, fuck Elmer Fudd, the ref. Don't know what that means. Don't know if that was his name, but must be a bit of a wind-up. Just thought it might be funny to include. The whole clip is quite funny. I was thinking about actually timestamping it in the intro of this episode, so I've not got to the edit yet, but if it's in the intro, that would be quite funny. So Wolves tweet of the week making an appearance next week. I'm sure if we lose against Liverpool, we'll still have a lot of head loss. Even going back from my bookmarks now, we still managed to win, and there were a few questionable tweets coming out of the Brentford Twitter. I don't think we'll ever do a game or play a game and then not be some questionable tweets coming out from Brentford Twitter. But nonetheless, we'll carry on with the episode. Not as big a feature as last week's tweet of the week, where someone suggested that Thomas Frank should potentially get the sack. But
where is he this week? Where is he this week?
Do you know what? I didn't want to at him. I didn't want to at him on Twitter. I felt too bad because he had already had a lot of Brentford fans in his mention, so I didn't want to cause him any more discomfort. But we'll just crack on with Wolves. I want to start with Jeremy, who left a comment on our last YouTube video saying, boys, they delivered everything you wanted, didn't they? Clean sheet, away win, 3 points we needed. And at the same time, Everton, Burnley and Luton lose. Forest losing as he was writing, but they ended up losing too. Flecken kept us in the game. A long way to go, but very happy with that. Callum, are you in complete agreement with that? Because I am.
Completely agree. Couldn't summed it up better myself. No, fantastic weekend for us. You know, Sheffield United, I did call it last week, Luton going in as favourites and, losing in such fashion, I think massively helps us out. We've maintained that lead over Sheffield United with us obviously winning. We've gained a lead over Luton now, gained a lead over the other teams in the pack as well. So great, absolutely fantastic. And the clean sheet as well, brilliant, fantastic for us, brilliant.
Craig, in terms of the context of our season, the bigger picture this month, and considering the results around us last weekend, as Jeremy mentioned, Luton, Everton, Forest, Burnley and Palace losing last night as well, how big of a result is that on Saturday?
You know what, we before we went into this run of fixtures, so before the first, I would say before the first City game, but obviously before the City game, we was talking about this run of fixtures that we've got, and we thought we're looking forward to this game being the one, and West Ham in a couple of weeks being the ones that we've got to get something from. So in the context of the fixtures that we've had, it's absolutely massive, considering we was all concerned that we weren't going to get very much up to, myself included, up to and including these next sort of 10 games that we've got. So absolutely massive for us. And it's important, like you've just touched on, to put that little bit of extra breathing space between us and the bottom three. I didn't ever think that we'd go down, but I did think we'd get dragged into it. And I think we were being dragged into it. But just that extra little bit of breathing space I know we're only 2 games away, two losses and them 2 wins away from it, but it makes me feel a lot more comfortable, and I'm sure it makes the players out on the pitch feel a bit more comfortable knowing they've got that little bit of breathing space.
100%. I do want to talk about the first half. I can't really go through it goal by goal because I only need 2, and the first one was from a corner. But just in terms of that first half, Callum, we were so in control of the game, and in truth, we could have been 2-0 up. I think Morpay has a good chance that Sarr actually makes quite a good save from, and then Sergio Reguilon almost feeds Vitaliano and then Nathan Collins before Mads Roerslev blasts it over the bar. Were you surprised with that first half, considering the run of form, considering the fact that we've lost the Wolves 3? Well, we may as well have lost the Wolves 3 times. The one where they went down to 10 in the FA Cup was a little bit embarrassing. But they've got the better of us at home 4-1. They managed to draw with us when they were down to 10, and then they beat us in the return fixture in the FA Cup. How surprised were you with the first half and how dominant we were?
Not at all, to be honest with you. I think listen, we set out a game, Mike. We knew how to frustrate them. We worked it to a T. We knew exactly what we were doing. No, listen. I mean, I think they were lucky. Flecker pulled off a blinder of a save late in the first half. Fantastic from him. Quality once again. But no, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Listen, we set up to frustrate them in that first half. We did a very good job. Continued that into the second. Morpay and Tony were working incredibly well up front, which I actually enjoyed that piece by Match of the Day. I don't know if anyone else has seen it.
Yeah, it was good.
Really good piece that they're talking about how the two work off each other, create some really good opportunities for each other. Morpay, I'm gutted he didn't go and get a goal again. He should have got a goal. Good save from Sarr with the first one, which put it wide. He had that chance where he probably should have put it on his left foot, where he was running in on goal. But no, we dominated that first half, and Wolves were nowhere to be seen.
Save from a header as well, didn't he?
So he
won a header, which surprised me that he won a header in the first place, which was brilliant. But yeah, Sarr made a great save. Just to add
whilst we're on Neil. I've dropped this at the end of the rundown, but we'll talk about it now. Whilst we're on Neil, I saw a tweet that I might have included in Tweet of the Week, but it wasn't a head loss tweet, so I didn't really want to include it. But the Super B said, "This is going to sound very unpopular, and I'm sorry to be disrespecting the king, but as great as Neil Maupay has been scoring goals, we seriously miss Bryan Mbeumo's presence on the pitch." I'm not sure if he tweeted that during the game, after the game, or before the game, but it kind of speaks to a bigger point around Neil Maupay and whether we should keep him on next year. Craig, do you see a world where Neil Maupay, Bryan Mbeumo, and Ivan Toney play in the same front three when we've got a full strength 11? Because at the moment, Neil Maupay is doing a very good job with Toney, and they've got a really good partnership. But you'd imagine when Bryan Mbeumo is back and fit, it's a straight swap for Neil Maupay.
I just want to point out, I just want to say, actually, I never thought that as a front two, they work together as well as they actually have. I didn't expect them to just click. You see them working off of each other. The goal at Spurs and just their aura about them too just seems fantastic. And it's exactly what we needed up top. But I think Ivan's played a big part in that in coming back. Brian was our go-to player when Ivan was suspended. And if Brian hadn't got injured, I don't think Neil Maupay would be here. I don't think he'd be playing for Brentford. So, and also I don't think if Sharda wasn't injured, I also don't think Neil Maupay would be playing for Brentford. Now, this might be a butterfly effect of Mbeumo getting injured and Maupay goes on to score a load of goals in the Premier League for Brentford. But I don't see a way in which our front three includes Neil Maupay when everyone is fully fit. He's a great player, a great squad player, and a great player to be able to bring off of the bench. But I don't think anyone can disagree with the fact that our strongest front three when everyone is fit is Brian, Ivan, and Kevin Sharda.
Yeah, even off the bench, this makes me not worried because I don't think we need to sign Neil Maupay. It's more of a want at this point. But even if we're going to keep him and he's going to be a bench player, he's not the most influential of players to come off the bench. When you're comparing it to someone like Kevin Schade or Johan Wissa, Neil Maupay is someone you'd like to start and kind of get under the opposition's skin. And he does have he need to give him his flowers as well, because he's shown over the last 5-6 games that there is a quality striker in there. Some of the finishes, some of the link-up play, the way I've been really impressed with how now Ivan Toney's back. You see Neil Maupay in the game a lot more, and he had a couple of chances against Wolves. He had that header, the one-on-one with Sarr that he makes a good save from. But his capability to kind of play off Toney, pick up the ball in these little pockets, and then either drive at the defence or feed others into play. I think for the Reguilon chance when he flashed it across goal, Norgard kind of switches it into Maupay, who turns on the edge of the box and then feeds Reguilon down the left. That's what's impressed me about him. But Callum, where are you with it? Because we do have, and we can talk about Neil Maupay just kind of big picture, whether we're going to sign him in the summer. Where are you with it? Because we've got Brian Mbeumo coming back, Johan Wissa's back from AFCON, and Kevin Schade. Well, as Craig's tweet said, he said he's coming back. He was loading last year, but he's got Callum's Wi-Fi. That's the guy. He's been loading for a fucking long time. But where are you in Neil Maupay, Callum?
I mean, look, I would love to see him sign a contract to stay on past the end of the season. But you do touch upon where can you see him actually playing a part in this Brentford squad. Now, I think personally, I can see him being involved, starting games for the next week or two while Wissa comes back, gets back into the stem of things. But on from there, I it's difficult to say, really, to be honest with you. I thought Potter had a fantastic little cameo on Saturday. I actually think I was watching the game. Never mind. I'm not. You can cut this bit out, actually. But then I'm watching on my little dodgy stick. But listen, what I was calling for Potter, because the way they have such a, they have a good defence, Wolves, but with that extra bit of pace, it proved key to score that second goal. The pressure, which wasn't there under Maupay because he's just simply not quick enough. When Potter came on, it was a completely different game. So that's what we'll get when Wissa comes back. That's what when Schade comes back. So when Neil Maupay comes in, I don't know. Maybe just a wind-up merchant, when the teams, when they're losing or whatnot, or on the bench, kicking the ball away and getting himself booked. I don't know, but it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
But it goes back to the point again: how much would Everton want realistically? He could still go and get, as I said, the other week, 12 to 13 goals, and you're saying as Everton, well, we could make a bit of money out of him because he's got a good return here. So who knows? But I'd like to see him stay. I would like to see him stay.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see him stay as well. Whether or not it materialises, we can have the conversation in the summer. Sorry for that little segue. It was me digressing, not you guys. But let's get back to the game. Mark Flecken, Craig, another fantastic performance. Not only did he make some good saves, but also his distribution was on point, and his distribution has been relatively good all season. But Man City and Wolves, the fact that he now has Toney to aim for, it kind of changes the picture. So I want something from both of you. Goalkeeper Craig, I'll come to you first. Is this the start of Mark Flecken's career at Brentford?
I want to say yes. I want to say yes, but from these last two games, I feel like we're seeing the goalkeeper, and he said it against City in his post-match interview in the showing what type of goalkeeper he can finally can be. But we're starting to see the value of which we bought him in for. He was this goalkeeper that was statistically the best goalkeeper in the Bundesliga last season, and only these last two games have we really seen that side of him. I posted a tweet which I actually said on one of our recent episodes. I can't remember what it was. It might have been after the Forest game, which we won, that Flecken needs to contribute to us getting a result. Mm-hmm. And this weekend was the weekend that he contributed to us finally getting the result. Now, I know we won 2-0 and people might be bringing that point up, but had he not made that save right before half-time, and we go in at halftime 1-1, there is not a Brentford fan out there that could think we don't crumble in that second half, and they go on to win that game. But he touching on in his distribution, he's got Ivan to aim at. For the majority of the season, he's been aiming at Neil Maupay, who is not going to win much headers against a lot of defenses, you know. And I said it after I think it was after we lost to them in the cup, or it might have been after we lost to them in the league, whichever one it was, that once Ivan's in the team, he will completely change the way that we attack Wolves, because he will continually occupy the two defenders. The point being, when he scored that second goal on the weekend, there was one player on KOP, two players on the back post on Ivan, and he still got ahead of both of them to put that ball in the bottom corner. But besides Flecken, just the stat that I've seen that I'm surprised neither of you two have brought up yet is that is the first time, I believe, in 18 games that Wolves haven't scored at the Molineux.
Wow.
I did hear that. On Match of the Day. You know, it was fantastic for us. I compared the game to Fulham, actually, you know, where we kept that clean sheet earlier on in the season, actually, and none of us expected to do that. So good start that, Craig, I must admit. Very well done. I don't know if you've got that from Match of the Day or not, and you've kept it in your head ever since. But
I nabbed it off of Twitter, mate. I saw it somewhere on Twitter, and I just locked it away in there specifically for this. But
let's go on.
I was just gonna say, I'm just so glad that he contributed. You know, so many times we've said he's unfortunately cost us a point, maybe 3. That he's. I know we lost against City, but if it weren't for him, it could have been so much worse. And then he contributes to the win on the weekend, and it just I struggled with him at the Forest game. I know we won, but I questioned his decisions for the first goal. But since that game, maybe he lost his final supporter and he thought, you know what, I've got to pull the finger out now. But since that game, he's been brilliant. But I just want to compare it to a player going forwards, you know. If there's a striker going for a goal drought and then they get that first goal, they'll then kick on. The same thing for a goalkeeper, where he just needs to make that one save or have that one game and he can kick on from that game. We've got another big one coming up. He's going to be tested a lot during the Liverpool game. And I just hope that we see the Mark Flecken of the last 2 games in that game as well.
Yeah, just going back to what you said about how if that Pedro Neto chance had gone in and Mark Flecken not saved it, I have no doubts in my mind that Brentford would have gone on to lose that game for 100%. So much so that I was speaking to the Wolves podcast and I said to Clayton and my missus, we went to the game, I was like, we celebrate when they go 1-0 up, not when we go 1-0 up, because we're going to cock it. We're going to cock it up. I was going to touch on Mark Flecken's yellow card because I think it's hilarious, and then kind of segue into just a whole bit on the Wolves fans and our shithousery. And I keep going back to that bloody season when we were just the kings of shithousery, and I absolutely love it. And it looks like it's coming back. Mark Flecken stops a promising Wolves counter-attack. Get a horrendous pass by Mads Roerslev, by the way, as well. Jesus Christ. But Mark Flecken runs off the pitch, brings the ball back onto the pitch, picks up the yellow card, which cues the chorus of boring from the Wolves fans that kind of went on the whole game and memed afterwards. But just in terms of that nastiness, Callum, it is nice, especially because we're at the bottom end of the table, that we're getting under the skins of players, teams, fan bases. I love it. And it's weird because normally when you tell someone you're a Brentford fan, they're like, oh, Brentford, quite like Brentford, quite like how they do things. And then I'm now hoping that it's going to be like, oh, Brentford, I fucking hate you lot because it's time wasted, every trick in the book, Neil Maupay. But just thoughts on it, Callum. I love that bit of nastiness, and I think it has a place in football, and I'm glad that we're using it.
100%. I think we've proved before when we went there the first season in the Premier League and we won with the exact same scoreline of 2-0. That game that day, we only had about 50 odd minutes of the ball in play, and that stat has been used widely ever since. We know one of the teams we know how to wind up is Wolves. Like, it's just, their fans start turning on the opposition. I think it's great. I think I knew it was going to be a circus on Saturday night because they just don't like playing us, and they don't like they don't like how we play against them. And do you know what? I had tweeted it and I knew it'd get a reaction. I was like, Wolves. I said Wolves fans don't like losing to us. And there was a reply in there which said, "Oh, we let you win," which of course got a bit bite to it. And it was like, mate, listen, we let you win at our place, for goodness sake. The amount of bloody goals we gave you lot, I'll tell you. But it's I think it's great. I wish we see it more often. Just wind up the opposition. Take a age with throw-ins. Corner kicks, set pieces in general, go down like you've been shot, just piss them off, I think it's great.
It's definitely fun when you're on the right side of it. When you're on the wrong end of it, it is annoying. But the Wolves fans, I don't know. Do you know what? In the preview, the guy said if Wolves are up for it and they're playing well, Molineux can be one of the best places to play. But if they're not, it can really be one of the worst. And I feel like we got the worst because we were good in the first half. We had chances to score. We go 1-0 up. Second half, they huffed and puffed. I think once after the VAR goal after their goal got disallowed by VAR, I think it was over. But I was still nervous until we got the second goal. But there was a fan in the Wolves away end right next to us that was giving it the big one after they'd equalised. And then VAR came out and disallowed the goal. Do you think there's a worse feeling in football than giving it to the away end or the other way around and then the goal being disallowed? I think it might be up there. I felt quite bad for him at the same time. I just wanted him to drown in his tears. But let's go on to the defence. And I want to talk about the defence player by player, really. Ethan Pinnock. Now, I think Ethan Pinnock's gone a little bit under the radar this season because, and to be fair, he's kind of one of those players that goes under the radar in every season. And he is a really high quality centre half in terms of his dual success. I think he was in the Who Scored Team of the Year last season. I saw that, and he was amongst like Ruben Diaz and all these kinds of players. In terms of his dual success, in terms of his power at the back, his presence, his passing ability as well, and his composure on the ball, they're all very impressive. Craig, I was doing the rundown, and I know you've seen the question, but I was going to ask you, if he didn't switch his allegiance to Jamaica, are we talking about an international England centre half, considering the perceived woes from Gareth Southgate in terms of our lack of options at centre half? But what are we thinking?
No, he plays for the wrong club, unfortunately. If he played for Villa, played for Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, obviously any other big teams in the Premier League, he would get a look in. But if he wears the red and white stripes, mate, he ain't getting picked. All you got to do is look at Rico Henry and how consistent he was last season. And every season we've been in the Premier League, actually, up until he got injured, didn't even get a sniff. You know what I mean? Didn't even get a sniff. I just want to say he hobbled off the pitch at the end of the game, so I hope he's okay. In real time, it didn't look like that much of a bad challenge. It looked like the player actually won the ball, and the ref gave a free kick for it. But he went down again afterwards and hobbled off the pitch to the point he was playing centre forward towards the end of the game. He was playing centre forward towards the end of the game, so I hope he's okay. I think he made the right decision. He was never going to get picked for England, purely based on the fact that he plays for us. And unfortunately, that's going to be the case for a lot of players. Ivan seems to be an exemption to the cause, exemption to the case, whichever way you want to say it. But he's more than good enough. He is more than good enough. And there's only a handful of centre-backs in the Premier League that you
left-sided as well.
Left-sided centre-backs that you would say are on his caliber or above, because there aren't many out there. There aren't many out there at all.
Yeah, I think it is. Let's go on to Nathan Collins. I think we said what we can say about Pinnock. He is just I was a bit surprised. That's what I was going to say. I was a bit surprised that Thomas Frank opted to keep him on the pitch and stick him up top when obviously we'd used all of our subs. So we couldn't take him off. But if he's got an injury, just take him off and just go back to the wall. I didn't understand that. I just thought he's going to get injured even worse. So I hope, fingers crossed, he's going to be okay for the Liverpool game. Nathan Collins, Callum, on his return to Wolves, obviously there's a bit of history there. He used to play for Wolves, and then obviously his huge blunders in the 4-1 home defeat. But again, and he has... It's difficult with Nathan Collins because I think you said it perfectly in a previous pod, Craig. It's like either he's really good or he's really shit, and there's no kind of in between. I'm happy at the moment because he was really shit against Wolves, and since then I think he's been really good, Callum.
Very much so. He didn't put a foot wrong on Saturday. In fact, I see a slightly different game from Collins when we seem to play Wolves. Obviously, take out the home game where it went into a complete disaster. If you focus on the last, the FA Cup game at our place, the FA Cup replay at their place, and then the league game on Saturday, he actually becomes more of an attacking player. There was a couple of I wouldn't, not incidents as such, but there was a couple of on Saturday where the back post, for example, where the ball's come in wide from Reguilon, he's put himself sprinting up forward. Where's that? He never usually does that. I haven't seen him do that in any other games, really, to be honest with you, unless it's playing Wolves like he did earlier on in the season. And then another one in the second half where he should have got a free kick for it, bombing upfield. I mean, blimey heck. Honestly, where's that been from? Where's that come from? So I think he's done very well. I'm very impressed. I've been impressed with him. Bar that couple of performances in there, Everton, namely at home, where he gave them a couple of the goals, and then of course against Wolves as well. But he's been solid. Been very, very impressed with Collins, and I think he's going to do very, very well for Brentford.
Didn't he actually score in the cup game at
their
place?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So, he should have scored on Saturday. He was very unlucky how their defender got round to that ball because it was an empty. He was going to kick it into the empty net.
Yeah. So, let's. I was going to say let's talk about Mads Roerslev, but I feel like it's quite a well-trodden path, and we speak about Mads Roerslev kind of every week. Thought he had an okay game against Wolves. I think that's it. Obviously, there was a few dicey moments, the back pass being one of them, but I think he's doing a job, and it seems clear to us now that he's going to get the nod over Aya at right wing back. Whether that changes when we have the likes of Mbeumo and Wissa back, so we're more comfortable playing in a 4-3-3, maybe we'll see, and then he'll move over to right back. But at the moment, I feel like Mads Roerslev at right wing back doesn't do a lot wrong, and I saw a lot of people blaming him for the couple of goals at Spurs. When a right back in the league would struggle to do with Timo Werner and his pace. That's what I'm going to say. Especially Mads Roerslev. He's not an elite level right back, and he's going to struggle. So let's move on to Sergio Reguilon, Craig. Another classy performance from him. Just talk to me like he is. We mentioned in the last podcast, Callum. You can tell he's cut from a different cloth. He's really just a silky footballer, and I feel like we're lucky to have him, and we're definitely not going to keep him. But just first of all, thoughts on his first couple of games, first full starts?
He just oozes class, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He just oozes class. I feel like he's actually of that caliber of player, like when we got Eriksen. He's one of those players that you look at his career and you think, there's no way he should be playing for Brentford. There's no way he should be playing for Brentford, which in a way shows where we are as a club at the moment, that someone of his caliber would be willing to come on loan to us for 6 months and help us out for the rest of the season. But yeah, he's just different gravy. He's exactly what we've been missing ever since Rico's been out injured. Exactly what we've been missing. And if there was ever, I'm trying to think, maybe someone like Udogie from Spurs again, but if there was ever a like-for-like sort of player that we would want to step into left back, I can't, off the top of my head, think of a player that we would be able to get in. I just think he's class, oozes class.
In terms of that Rico Henry comparison, kind of points to a bigger question, like Neil Maupay in the summer. I don't think we can afford him, first of all. I think his wages at Tottenham, and we're paying half, and I think we're paying a lot of money to even pay that sum. But in terms of that Rico Henry comparison, Callum, would it be pointless to even get him on a permanent, considering Rico Henry is at the club, and he'd still probably be first choice over Sergio Reguilon? But he might not be, but at the same time, you don't want to have two players who are both at the same quality or at the same level who should start, because you're going to force one of them out.
I would say there is a chance we would sign him. I would actually say there is a chance. I mean, listen, you've seen players in the past sign contracts with hugely reduced wages from what they previously had. You can see he's interested in playing for the club. You can see the passion. I looked at the video Brentford put out on their YouTube. I think it was yesterday or today, one of the two, and he was involved in most of that. How happy he was to be involved in that team. Set up that first goal. You can see a shot from behind the goal. He's first over celebrating with the team. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't sign for the club at the end of the season, personally, unless a club came in from Spain or another club from the Premier League, possibly. But obviously, it's going to match our wage demands, really, and obviously from him, from the club. I could see him personally staying at left back, and then Rico Henry going to right back, and then Hickey being the sub. Just saying, this is Callum's.
Rico Henry at right back. He's not got right foot. Right foot's for standing on.
We've seen him there before. We have seen him there before. I'm telling you now, 100% Rico Henry's been at right back.
You said 100% to me last week about the Wolves result, and I knew that I was right.
This is Callum's controversial point of the week. Listen, I'm telling you now, Rico Henry. Listen, I would love to see him play on the same pitch at the same time as Reguilon.
We need a football historian to fact check that, please. A Brentford football historian, fact check, please. Has Rico Henry ever played right back for Brentford?
He has. I'm telling you, he's definitely played at right back. It's like Hickey. He's played at right back, isn't it?
But Hickey's got two left feet. His right foot isn't for standing on. He can actually use it. Rico Henry is so left-footed. He's like Jonathan Douglas with his right foot.
I'm certain we've seen. It may have not been many games, but I'm telling you,
he goes backtracking.
You said we've never seen him play there, and I can tell you now, he's definitely played there. He's definitely played there.
All right.
It was definitely an occasion when him and Hickey swapped over. I'm certain.
Okay.
But I would love to see.
Yeah. Callum's talking about when he's had to cover a player who's bombed forward, and he's sat in at right back for a moment.
We'll turn this into a new segment? Callum's ridiculous statement of the week.
I like the sound of that.
All right, we'll move on. I want to talk about Matty Jensen because I love Matty Jensen. We were singing his praise at the start of the season, and rightfully so. He was doing really well, but he has subtly dipped. His form subtly dipped over the last month or two, and to be fair, that's in tandem with the rest of the team. So I don't know if I'm being a bit harsh, but when you notice, Matty Jensen's one of those players, when they give it away, you notice in your crowd, a lot of people groan. Whereas if someone like Rico Henry gives it away, a lot of people will just be like, it's Rico, he can't do anything wrong. But Matty Jensen, because he had to kind of earn those kind of ratings from the fans, because when we first signed him, he wasn't amazing. He didn't light the world on fire. And then he's kind of grown to be in the position he is today. There's still a lingering of when he gives the ball away, people have a go. Callum, Craig, you're laughing your head off. Take over.
I was just laughing at something which was you saying when Rico gives the ball away, everyone goes, "It's all right, mate. It's all right." Bournemouth at home this season. At the start of the season, Rico Henry gave the ball away. Bournemouth went on to score it, and I distinctly remember after the game seeing people blaming Flecken for that goal, and after Rico's giving the ball away to it.
That's what I mean.
But even then, after that, everyone's going, Rico.
Point proven. But
exactly.
About Jensen, I back him to come back to it. And to be fair, I feel like with this run of results and with players coming back from injury, he'll probably get back to his best. But I feel he's one of those players that he needs the team to be performing well. I don't think he's going to be the shining light in the team, but when everyone's performing well, he will be the shining light in the team, if that makes sense.
Go on, Callum.
Didn't he go off injured on Saturday, or was that just me?
Yeah, he did. But he goes off injured all the time. Genuinely.
I think that Matty was just is quite in an unfortunate situation where last season, people may agree, people may disagree. I felt like he was the scapegoat last season. You know, every team. I'm going to scramble my words here. We've always had a scapegoat within the team. Be it Jensen, we're going back a little bit when it was Romain Sawyers, or when it was John Swift, who got booed off at QPR. But he's unfortunate to the point of he was that scapegoat last season where everyone pointed out when he dropped a stinker to even if he just has a okay game this season, people pick him up on it. So we talk about players that just have average games. If Ivan Toney hadn't have scored on Saturday, you couldn't have persuaded me afterwards that he was on that pitch. But because he scored, he had a great game. Which, that's just all a striker has to do, is put the ball in the back of net. And the fact that he did that, everyone's gone, cracking game. If he hadn't scored that, I wouldn't have known he was on the pitch. He didn't really do anything at all. But Matt is unfortunate to the point that because he had that up and down season last season, whenever he makes a mistake or has a mediocre game, he's the one that gets picked up on it amongst everyone else. And Mark Frankfurt included.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's a good point. Let's talk about Ivan Toney. You mentioned it. Quiet game, Callum, but all he needs is that one chance, and it's one of the first times we've gone 2-0. I can remember in recent memory going 2-0 up in a game, and then knowing that I think we're going to win this game, and it's a classy finish. It's a really good play by Yano in the build up that should get a mention because nice little flick with his back heel. 1-2 with Yarmo, who was actually really good again. And I quietly doing well every time he makes an appearance, Yarmo. But the finish from Ivan Toney, Callum, it is very good. And we have to give him his props. I don't know about him pointing to his hand saying he's him. I'm not sure about that. I prefer not to speak on that one.
No.
I'm very much still in the camp of love the player, hate the man, but we move. Callum, Ivan Toney.
Very, 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 very happy with how, that goal was scored. The press, the ball from Jan out. Glad you've touched upon that, Mike. Was a fantastic ball in, but he made it look so easy. Like that is the great thing about Ivan Toney. He actually. This is another bad comparison from Callum, but he's on one today. But I actually compare him. Well, yeah, in general. But I compare him to Haaland in some ways, where he doesn't. Sometimes he's not involved in the game as much as you expect him to be. Everyone's talking about him before the game, and then in large parts of the game, and then he could pop up and do something brilliant like that. It's very similar to actually how Haaland played, I think, on Saturday, actually. But no, I'm fantastic from Toney. I think he popped up, he scored that goal. Of course, he had something to say after the game as well. But that's just Ivan Toney. I don't see a problem with what he said after, to be honest. But no, very pleased for him. Added another 10 million to the prize fund at the end of the year. So everyone's happy. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, agreed. I think as well he can play. I like the comparison actually. I do like the comparison, Callum. So props to you. But
thank you.
He does also have the ability that Haaland doesn't to control a game from the top. I remember Liverpool away last year, we lost, but he was unplayable against. I think it was Van Dijk. It might not have been Van Dijk to be fair, but he was unplayable. He was so good, taking the ball down. There was back heels, there was finesse, there was everything. Arsenal away last year, it was the same. Ran the game from up top. And in that sense, obviously, I think Haaland is a better striker. But in my opinion, I think Ivan Toney is a more complete player. It's not an outrageous statement because I've said it before. But let's go on. Callum, give us or Craig, one of you, give us a nice rounding off. I've got on the rundown. First win outside of London since March last year. Said we needed to get points from Wolves and West Ham. Arguably, Wolves are the better team right now, considering the way West Ham got thumped on the weekend. It's a really good start to the month and a great way to build on a positive performance against City, Craig.
Yeah, perfect way to move on from what was not a bad performance against City, just beaten by arguably the best team in the world. That was just on their game. I think much needed win in a time which fixtures aren't looking great for us. So, perfect timing, really. Perfect timing to get 3 points, extra 3 points on the board.
100%. Let's go on. Let's do a brief preview of Liverpool. We will have a preview with the Anfield wrap coming out on Thursday, I believe. But let's do a brief run through, just us three. Have fared well against them in recent years, Callum, especially at our place. We lost 3-0 in the reverse fixture. Looks like Salah could be back in training at least. Me and Craig were talking off camera. He's back in training. Whether that means he's going to be fit for the game is a different matter. But having no Salah doesn't really make a difference. They've got Nunes, they've got Diaz, they've got Jota. They've got a lot of options up front. How are you feeling ahead of the Liverpool game, Callum?
I think we can go and beat them again. No, I don't see a reason why not. Optimistic Callum tonight. No, I think, listen, we've seen how to score goals against this Liverpool team. Also, I'm not sure if Alisson's due to be back or not on Saturday. I'm not sure why you missed last week, to be honest. But if they've got their number 2 in goal with Callier,
he's still quite good though, Kelleher.
Still, granted, but
we were after him, weren't we?
Well, if you believe the press, you should know this, Mike. You should know this. But I think, listen, we've got to use that set piece that we've seen last season in particular. We've got to press them. We've got to create set piece opportunities. They do not know how to deal with the set pieces. We've seen that countless times when they've come to the G-Tech over the last 2 seasons. When you put the ball into difficult situations through a throw-in or a corner, we score goals against them. And I don't see a reason why we can't go and beat Liverpool on Saturday.
Genuinely, I agree. Because even in the reverse fixture, we lost 3-0, but we didn't play that badly. We had a few chances to cut them open a few times. And I feel like this Liverpool team are there to be got at. They do concede a lot of goals. And Craig, there's so much pressure on them, and there will be now on every kind of result in terms of Arsenal, City, Liverpool. They've all got such big games coming up, but every game is a 6-pointer because if one of them drops points, it's going to be advantage City because it just looks like they're just hitting that kind of spell that they do in every season where they just win every game and blow every team away, which doesn't bode well for our fixture against them next Tuesday. But they've got everything to lose in terms of if City beat us on Tuesday, then they go above Liverpool in the table. And if Liverpool lose to us on Saturday, then that gap's going to be even bigger. So they've got a lot to lose. And I'm seeing it as a free hit because like we've said, in terms of this run of games in February, the games against City and Liverpool aren't the ones we should be looking at to take points from.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a free hit. Just on your point on City, I'm going to throw back a little bit to what we spoke about last year when they seemed to be falling away from the top. And we were talking about the title race. And you said, "Who is it? Arsenal or Liverpool title race this season?" And I remember saying to you, "Just wait until we get past January, past the busy Christmas period into February, and we'll see City hitting their stride." Lo and behold, here we are. Sometimes I do know what I'm talking about. It's rare, but I do know something.
You've not really stuck. It's not like you stuck your neck out with that call, mate. They do this every year.
I don't care. I don't get to be right very often, so when I do, I fucking claim it. All right.
I'll let you have that.
You know what? I think Callum's right. I think we're probably in one of the best times to actually go and play them. They've got all of the off-field stuff going on with Klopp at the moment. Ivan being back is fantastic for us in this kind of game. He is going to occupy their centre-backs, be it Van Dijk and whoever bloody plays for them now, be it Canate or Joe Gomez or whoever. Yeah, it's a free hit, but there's nothing stopping us going out there and pushing them for 90 minutes to go for the win. I'm sure we're going on to it about the team, but I don't think Neil Maupay can start this game. I think it has to be KLP that starts this weekend.
Well, we could have Johan Wissa back potentially, which does mean that we could have a front three, but I doubt we're going to go front three against one of the big six. Even though Liverpool do set up in a 4, I'm trying to remember if with the game last season we were beaten 3-1. Were we in a 5 that game? I think we were, but
most likely.
Yeah,
because Ben Mee scored. Well, I say Ben Mee scored. It was an own goal, the first one, wasn't it? Ben Mee, Pinnock. I kind of want to say Zanka.
Fact check, Brentford fan. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm confident, and like you said, it does take the kind of the pressure off the game because I feel like it is a free hit for us. But just the fact that we've beaten Liverpool in the past and we've played well against Liverpool in every game that we've played against them, I just think it would be it's going to be 12:30 kickoff. The G-Tech will be out for it. I think, Callum, we could nick a result. And it would be a good point. It would be even better 3 points. But we look forward to it. I think the Eden Road podcast, well, I know the Eden Road podcast will be back next week, but I think that would be a good time to wrap up. We'll be back next week to go over the Liverpool game and also briefly look ahead to Man City in the week. Before we go, just want to hear from you in the comments, please. Thoughts ahead of the Liverpool game, thoughts after the big 2-0 win against Wolves on the weekend. We want to hear so that we can take it into the next episode. We've included Jeremy today, so shout out to Jeremy if you're listening, mate. Love the comments. Keep them coming. And just before we go, share the podcast around with a mate, subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Eden Road on Twitter and at Eden Road Pod on Instagram. Boys, it's been a pleasure, and I shall see you on Saturday.
Perfect. See you later, Rob. Thank you very much.
Actually, just before we go, I'm just going to play this one more time.
You got the biggest shit house in the league, Mill Door Pie as well. You got him. You got the big
We'll see you next week. Good point to end.
He's a big shit house.